1 month after Hurricane Ian ravaged southwest Florida, many here in Fort Myers Beach are still digging out from under piles of debris, trying to remain Fort Myers Beach strong, as this hashtag says, as they wait for more help from local officials.
So, all my friends came to help me. That's the big thing.
But some, like Diane Risley, have found the process far too complicated.
They make you run around. You know, you have to apply for this, and then your insurance company, they say that you have to have this. Then you go back to your insurance company to get it. Then you have to wait for an adjuster. It's very hard for these people, and some of them are very old, you know, they're senior citizens. They don't have computers, they don't have cell phones.
Late September, Hurricane Ian hit this area as a Category 4 storm, killing more than 100 people in the state, one of the deadliest storms to ever hit Florida, creating surges that reached as high as 18 feet. A month later, whole blocks are still in shambles. Some residents are partly relying on the kindness of strangers, like Bradley Miller, who came to Fort Myers all the way from Fairbanks, Alaska, to help rebuild.
I've helped out 5 different houses so far, demoing and relocating all the debris inside the houses out to the streets.
But more official help may soon be on the way. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Wednesday announced a series of hurricane relief measures to significantly accelerate the cleanup and recovery process, pointing out that it took more than 20 months to navigate debris removal in some areas in the aftermath of the devastating Hurricane Michael in 2018.
Driving trucks stuffed to the brim with their belongings, some 700 Syrian refugees living in Lebanon made their way home Wednesday. It's the first day of repatriations, organized by Beirut under a revived program. We want to go back to our country, this man says. It's about time. Lebanese authorities say the refugees are returning voluntarily, though some rights groups have expressed concern over potential coercion. Lebanon is home to more than 800,000 Syrians registered with the United Nations Refugee Agency, down from 1.2 million at its peak. They fled the violence unleashed in 2011 after protests against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. While the front lines in the 11-year war are now largely inactive, the UN warns flare-ups in violence and the risk of detention makes large-scale returns to Syria unsafe. In 2018, Lebanon launched a process to repatriate refugees after checking they were not wanted by Syrian authorities. Around 400,000 Syrians took up the offer before the program was put on hold due to the pandemic. Lebanon's outgoing president, Michel Aoun, revived it this month. Lebanese authorities say the repatriations, coordinated by the country's General Security Agency, are voluntary. Rights groups, including Amnesty International, have said some past returnees have been subject to rights violations. And Amnesty has also said refugees may not have had accurate or complete information about the level of risk in their hometowns. Despite the uncertainty of what lies ahead, many, like Mohammed Rifai, says they are happy to return. I've been here for 9 years, he says. We are relieved to be going back to our country.
My cell phone is disconnected because I can't pay the bill.
Well, there's a lot of struggles going on now in this country with the food.
It's outrageous on all the prices.
These are the voices of struggling Americans just 2 weeks ahead of decisive congressional midterm elections, and they reflect the bitter toll of higher prices for groceries, gas, and rent, brought on by what Reuters polling has found to be the #1 issue facing voters, inflation.
The everyday necessities that people take for granted, you can't afford them anymore. And when you're stuck with nothing, what do you do?
Chrissy Zeffield is a 38-year-old mother of 3. She is between jobs and sleeping in her friend's basement in the Chicago suburb of South Elgin.
It's my air mattress that I purchased roughly about a month ago. Got it for a steal on Amazon for about $40.
Amid these hard times, she compares them to memories of better days under a Republican president.
I did see a huge difference in the economy and everything when our former president was in office. Our gas prices were down, food costs were great, shelves were actually stocked in the grocery stores.
Record inflation has undermined Democratic President Joe Biden's approval ratings, and Democrats are worried they could see Republicans take over both chambers of Congress in November. Speaking to Reuters in her friend's backyard, Zeffield reflects on the billions of dollars in military aid sent to Ukraine when there are so many needy people around her.
I have never seen somebody pour billions of dollars into another country and not its own, that is clearly hurting. I understand war is going on and this and that, but we got to think about our people first.
Economically, it's hurting us. Whether you call it whatever you want to name it, it's hurting all of us.
Daniel Ferrales is a 72-year-old retiree. He told Reuters he now regularly collects groceries from a Chicago food pantry, something that began during the pandemic and now persists because of inflation. He said he's planning to vote for a Democrat in November and worries what Republicans might do if they control Congress.
There's nothing wrong with the Republicans, but they don't seem to be wanting to give up anything. They just seem to want to keep it off for themselves. I mean, not for themselves, but to limit us and what we need. You know, and I could never understand that.
No, it's kind of hard, but we make do with it.
Chanel Davis is a 46-year-old who cares for both her children and grandchildren. She spoke to Reuters at a free clothing giveaway in Chicago. Her granddaughter was able to find a pair of secondhand sneakers.
And my grandbaby was happy for her little pair of shoes. And she's on the phone with her mother now saying, look what I got, Mommy, look what I got. You know, so all of this does account. It helps. It helps a lot.
Davis is undecided about how she'll vote, but she understands it's her responsibility to cast a ballot and make her voice heard.
Get out there and vote, everybody. Your vote counts. It does count.
I feel like we have done better whenever there has been a Republican in the House.
But Zeffield, who calls herself a political conservative and lives in a swing district, told Reuters she's unlikely to vote. She has other priorities. Right now, she is saving what little money she has to put toward car insurance, a new tire, and a tank of gas to drive and see her kids, who are living with their father.
I can't even pick them up to take them for ice cream. Just something as small as that. I miss them so much. I feel like I'm failing them. I really feel like I'm failing them.
Stocks lost their momentum on Wednesday with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ ending a 3-day winning streak, dragged lower by market-leading tech stocks after gloomy earnings reports from Microsoft and Alphabet. The Dow finished flat, the S&P 500 fell 0.75%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ lost a full 2%. Dour earnings guidance from Microsoft and the Google parent hit their share prices and added to mounting fears of a global economic slowdown. George Ball is chairman of Sanders Morris Harris.
Earnings are apt to have been reflected in the weakness in the NASDAQ, particularly the relative weakness in the NASDAQ for the last 2.5 weeks. That is going to dissipate between now and the end of the week and into next week. People are expecting disappointing results on balance from the large technology companies that will be reporting. I think as they report those disappointing earnings, it's not going to be a major drag on their share prices or on the indexes. On the other hand, the belief that the Fed is fed up with rate increases by the end of 2022 is buoying the market. There clearly is something that they're trying to call a tactical rebalancing. That's a way of saying you've got a bear market bounce, and that is going to continue, I think, for the next at least several weeks.
Another tech giant reported earnings after the close, with Meta Platforms, shares of which ended the regular session down 5.5%, reporting third-quarter revenue that fell for a second straight time. Shares of the Facebook owner sank even further in extended trading. Outside of tech, Boeing reported a deeper-than-expected third-quarter loss, sending its shares sliding. On the plus side, shares of Visa rose more than 4.5% after the consumer credit company posted profits that beat estimates.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged.
Darrell Brooks, a Wisconsin man who killed 6 people and injured dozens of others when he drove his SUV into a Christmas parade near Milwaukee in 2021, was found guilty on Wednesday of intentional murder and other charges. Wearing a suit and tie and a mask, Brooks bowed his head against his clasped hands while the judge read the verdicts, guilty on 76 counts. He was accused of deliberately driving his SUV through police barricades and plowing into crowds of people at the holiday parade in Waukesha, about 15 miles west of downtown Milwaukee. The dead ranged in age from 8 to 81, and more than 60 others were injured, including at least 18 children. Among the casualties were members of a dance troupe called the Dancing Grannies.
Did the defendant commit first-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes.
Brooks, a Milwaukee resident, represented himself during the 3-week trial. At the closing argument, Brooks told the jury that he had no intention of harming anyone. He said he sounded the SUV's horn as he drove through the crowd, attempting to warn people to get out of the way. But the district attorney pushed back, telling the jury, quote, "When you ride through a parade route and roll over children, your intent is known." On numerous occasions during the proceedings, Waukesha County Circuit Judge Jennifer Doro admonished Brooks for failing to follow court rules and arguing with her. She removed Brooks from the courtroom several times, sending him to another room where he watched the proceedings. Moments before the verdicts were read, Brooks asked the court to rule on several motions, including a mistrial.
Your Honor, I don't consent to being called that name and would like to address subject matter jurisdiction for the record as yet to be proven.
Your objections are noted. I will not be addressing subject matter jurisdiction.
At the time of the attack, Brooks was out on bail on a domestic abuse charge. He was arrested near the scene and has been in custody ever since.